It's a vine next to a vine. Different kind of vine. My vine's not real. Spoiler alert. Hello everyone, welcome back to Foster the Meeple, a channel all about board games and board gamey things. I'm back again today with another pumped up Kickstarter. And today's pumped up Kickstarter is on Vine from Cavenwire Games, who very kindly sponsored today's video. Now, as per usual with my preview videos, this is not an official how to play, more of a general overview to help you decide whether or not Vine is a good fit for you. If it is a good fit for you and if you are interested, I will have all of the links, everything you need to know will be in the description below, so make sure to click those, check them out, do all the good stuff. One more thing before we get started, Vine is a prototype, so anything that you see is subject to change, including rules, components, all of that good stuff. You guys know the drill, so without further ado, I say we dive in and learn a little bit more about Vine, a little beanstalk. Whee! Welcome to Vine, a lush competitive tile-laying game where you grow your own twisting beanstalk, prune it for power, and try to harvest the juiciest bean combos before your opponents do. But careful, every vine has a neighbor, and in this game, your growth could be someone else's problem. But what does any of that mean? I am so glad you asked. Let's take a closer look at how the game works. First off, let's look at the setup a little bit. This is a setup for a 3-player game. This my beanstalk, that's your beanstalk, that's your beanstalk. 3-player game. The game does play 1 to 5 players in case you are curious. So everybody starts with a root tile. So this is my root tile, and you just need to have enough space to kind of grow out and up. So obviously this is a little bit close because it's an example, but just give yourself a little space, because I don't know if you've ever grown beans before, because I haven't. They go all over the place. Your goal is to climb high, harvest beans, and build efficiency while also planting one of your 2 tiles each turn to your opponent's vine to the left. So let's talk about game structure and how that works. So let's talk about a turn flow. Now, optionally, the first thing that you can do on your turn is you can prune and harvest. I will talk about what those mean after I explain everything else, because it'll just help it make a little bit more sense. But the next thing that you have to do, is draw 2 plant tiles from the bag. This is the vine bag. Okay, so you're going to draw 2 tiles. I don't know why I'm holding them like this, but that's how they came out. So these are the 2 tiles that I've drawn. Then you are going to play 1 tile to your own vine and then 1 tile to the player on your left, aka your neighbor. Then you are going to gain a bean or spend growth tokens. Then we will reset for the next player. Every tile you place will change the shape and potential of your vine and your neighbor's vine. We're going to take a closer look at each of these steps in a little bit more detail. Plant tiles will come in 2 forms. We have stems and leaves. It's probably easier for me to put these here so you can see. This is a stem, obviously. This is a leaf, obviously. Stems are going to let you grow your plant, branching it off into different directions. You can go out, you can go up. Basically, it just needs to all come back to the root. Leaves, on the other hand, will cap off growth, but they are essential if you want to grow beans later, which we're going to talk about soon. So let's talk about a few of those placement rules. You must always grow above ground. So as an example, I could do this or this, but I'm just trying to see if I have a good example here. If I did this, I couldn't do this because, once again, where the heck is that coming from? And then I couldn't do this because how the heck is it growing underground? That doesn't make any logical sense. So everything has to be above ground when you connect it to your root tile. Every vertical row you grow is going to earn you a point at the end of the game, so height does matter. But spreading sideways helps you build structure and score more beans. So keep that in mind as you're placing. You want to not only grow up, but you need to grow out a little. Now, if you are so curious, you could, let's just do another little example. You could do this, because it's still coming out of the root. And then maybe you want to do something like this. And then maybe later, I'm just trying to find the right tiles to do this, you want to do this. And that's okay. You can have a loop because sometimes that actually happens in nature, okay? So that is totally acceptable. Leaves are always going to be a little bit turned down towards the right or to the left. When you are placing them off of a side stem, they have to be drooping down because we are following the laws of gravity here. This is real life. So I could place this leaf here because it's turning down. However, I could not place this leaf here because it's going up. That one would need a leaf that looks like this. On the other hand, if you are placing a leaf on a stem that goes up or that goes down, it doesn't matter which leaf type you place. Only when it's off to the side, it just needs to be drooping down. Okay, just wanted to make sure we were clear on that. Before you grow, one thing that I mentioned earlier that you can do optionally is you can prune your vine, cutting it clean at a single connection. Anything above that cut is going to fall away and will go into the compost pile. I forgot to put the compost pile out. Give me a second. The compost pile. So I'm just using the bottom of the box as a compost pile, but anything above that cut that you make is going to fall away and go into the compost pile. But you don't just lose those tiles. What you're going to do when you do that is you are going to gain growth tokens. So before we talk about growth tokens, let me just show you what this could potentially look like. Here's an example of a cut that I could make. You can make one cut. I could cut this tile here, and anything above it is going to go away. Okay? So if it looked like this, if I cut here, all three of these tiles would go away and they'd be dumped into the compost bin. This is a cut that wouldn't be legal, this one right here. So basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to use the cut to sever the stem or leaf or whatever it might be from the root system. So you can't sever a loop because it's not fully able to then sever all of that from the root system. So just keep that in mind. So during the prune phase, if you cut off one leaf, you will gain one growth token. If you cut off 2 stem tiles, then you are going to also gain 1 growth token, okay? If you prune off a bean, and we haven't even talked about beans yet, but we will, you will get to harvest it and keep it as points, even if it's no longer on your vine. Timing your pruning well can open up blocked vines, earn you tokens, and give you a quick bean boost when you need it most. One of the most clever twists of this game is on your turn, when you draw 2 tiles, you must place 1 on your own vine. So if I had this and I drew these 2, I could place 1 on my own vine, and then you're going to place your other one on the neighbor to your left's vine. And you get to choose where you place it. So I might want to stop them in their tracks right here and place a leaf on top, because remember, they can't grow unless they then prune that. This is where strategy meets sabotage. Saboteur. Bean sabotage. Is their vine thriving? Place a leaf in an awkward spot. Need to stall their vertical growth? Turn a stem sideways to cap their climb. If your opponent's vine has no valid placements, they will then hold on to that tile for later and you can carry on. So basically how that works is, let's say they had this tile. Obviously this is not a fully set up example, but if I was not able to place this legally, they would just get this. Then when they drew 2 tiles, they now have 3 tiles to choose from. So this is a little bit tricky. You don't really want to put an opponent in this situation because it does give them the upper hand, because they don't have to place the one that you gave them. They could place any of the 3 and then they would give 1 over to the player on their left. Now let's talk about beans. Beans are your ticket to victory. I've been saying that as a life motto my entire life. At the end of your turn, if your plant has, number 1, a valid space for a bean, which is no obstructions and proper stem connection. Number 2, it has enough leaves to support your total bean bunches. Then you can take one bean tile from the market, which is here in the middle. You could place it on your vine. Each bean bunch requires one leaf somewhere on the vine. Once again, it's got to be connected to the root. But here's a pro tip. Using a growth token will allow you to stack additional bean tiles onto a single bunch, even if you're out of leaves. All right, so let's do a little example. So here I have one leaf on my beanstalk. So I could take this bean and place it here because I have one leaf to support one bean bunch. It doesn't mean that because there's 3 beans, I need 3 leaves. This is considered one bean bunch. I also want to mention gravity does exist for beans too. So I couldn't place this bean like this because that is crazy. That just looks so silly. So you would need to kind of work it out. Actually, yeah, that would be fine. And then you could do a bean bunch like this because the bean bunch is hanging down, okay? Gravity. Beans need gravity in order to function. However, I wouldn't be able to place this because I don't have another leaf. So I first need to be able to place a second leaf in order to put out this second bean bunch. Otherwise, I can't do it. Now, like I mentioned, you can stack. So if I spend growth tokens, I can stack a bean like this. Now, what I couldn't do, let's say that was the first one that I placed, and I had a leaf here. Well, I couldn't then place this particular bean because suddenly I've cut off that leaf. We can't do that, okay? But if this were the situation, I had a growth token and I want it to stack, I could place this one on here. I don't need any extra leaves because it's still on the same bunch. Each bean tile is going to be worth 1 to 3 points depending on the tile. So stack smart and you'll multiply your rewards without expanding your plant. So you're like, how does the points work? Well, this bean is worth 3 points because it has 3 beans on the stalk. This one is worth 2 because it has 2. And of course, there are going to be ones that have 1 baby bean, 1 little bean. Boop. 1 bean. 1 point, 2 points, 3 points. Growth tokens are a powerful, flexible tool, and you can use them in 3 different ways. We already talked about one. You can use them to stack extra beans onto your bunch. You can also use one to draw any tile from the compost pile. So let's just say that's what it looked like. I can actually look through and pick something that I think is going to be very helpful for me as I'm growing out my bean. The other thing that you could do with it is you can refresh the bean market to hunt for better scoring opportunities. So we do have the bean bag here, bean bag, and you can hunt through it to try and find something that fits better with what you have set up. So as an example, this one works better for me than this one because that's not how gravity works. We've already talked about it. Okay, so you can hunt through the bean bag to find better tiles. Used well, growth tokens will pretty much let you break rules just enough to pull off big turns or fix problems your opponents have planted. Because remember, you're not just working on your little beanstalk all by yourself. At the end of your turn, you are going to refill the bean market if you took a bean. Any tiles you couldn't legally place are then discarded. So if your vine is closed off, don't forget to prune first or you'll waste your draw. Nobody wants that. The game ends when either the last plant tile is drawn from the bag, giving you exactly 12 turns. So just so you know, in a 3-player game, I had to take out 72 tiles. So depending on your player count, you are going to be removing tiles from this bag, all of which is outlined in the rule book. So that's one way. Or the last bean tile has been placed in the market. Finish out the round and then call it done. Then it's time to score. You are going to get 1 point for every vertical row above your roots. You're then going to score 1 to 3 points for every bean tile on your vine as well as harvested ones. And you'll remember when we prune, so let's just say during a previous turn we had decided to prune here. So all of these ones would be gone and this would be harvested. So we also count this as well as ones that are still currently on the beanstalk. So 1 to 3 points depending on how many beans are on that particular tile. Then you're going to lose a point for every open stem connection that didn't get capped off. So very, very important to grow up, to grow lots of beans, to cap things off with leaves. And you also need leaves, you'll remember, because without leaves, you're not growing bunches. And bunches are beans, and we want beans because beans are points. So there's lots to think about. It's a bit of a beanie puzzle. Make you work your brain bean a little bit. Vine is all about building tall, scoring smart, and growing with intent, while also giving your neighbors just enough of a headache to fall behind. The plant doesn't lie. Grow clean, prune wisely, and harvest big. So your question might be, who is Vine for? Vine is perfect for players who love puzzly tile layers with player interaction and a bit of take that strategy. You can obviously play this mean or nice. I don't know why you would play it nice, but you can if you really want to. Just saying. So if you enjoy those kinds of games and you want a game that mixes growth and mischief, Vine is definitely your jam. It blends spatial efficiency, clever timing, and indirect player conflict in cozy yet cutthroat plant growing theme. And with a flexible play length, gorgeous components, and lots of "oh no you didn't" moments, Vine is a perfect fit for strategy lovers and casual gamers alike. It does play, like I mentioned already, 1 to 5 players, so there is a solo mode on this. And it does play ages 8 and up, so it's fun for the whole family. Lots of different player counts. It's pretty chill, but still being mean. I would consider this. Jeff and I often talk about like coffee games, like you drink a coffee, you play Vine, and kind of play it in whatever style you like to play it. All right? So my friends, if Vine sounds like it could be a good fit for you and your gaming group, definitely check it out. Like I mentioned, I have all the links and everything you need to know in the description below. But that is everything that I have for today's video. Now, if you're interested in buying board games, we're going to Kickstarter for this one, but other games, you should first start by checking at your friendly local gaming store, and for us, it's a Boardroom Game Cafe. If you like what you see, please subscribe. I hope to see you again soon, and now I say goodbye. Goodbye. Well, first of all, that's not how gravity works, so let's get a better example. First of all, that's not how gravity works. So my friends, if Vine sounds, wow,